14% of UK small businesses made a loss last year, another 8% just about broke even. And the median profit for a UK SME was £13,000. Now that's the median. So half of small businesses in this country made less than 13 grand in an entire year of work. Now, if you're a business owner watching this and you're feeling that pressure right now, the long hours, the cash flow stress, the sense that you're doing a lot of work for very little return, well, you're not alone. But also, I want to tell you something that might reframe the way you think about the problem. Because in most cases, the business is not broken, the model is not wrong, the service is not bad, it's unlikely the team, the margins are just too thin. And that is a fixable problem. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how one of our clients went from £16,000 in annual loss to £150,000 in profit in just a single year, with the same team, with the same customers, and the same type of work. And then I'm going to show you how to find the same number in your own business and start improving it, regardless of what industry you're in or how big or small you are right now. So let me tell you about the business. I'm going to call the owner George in this case. So George ran a construction company, small team, about 5 plus then his subbies, his subcontractors, turnover just over £1 million a year. And on paper, that sounds like a pretty good business, right? Getting past £1 million in annual revenue puts you in roughly the top 2% of all UK startups. So that is a significant milestone. But when we sat down, when we go through the numbers properly, the picture was very different. After salaries, you've got those subcontractor costs, materials, taxes, insurances, and then everything else that the business has to pay. George was left with a loss of around £16,000. And that's on £1 million of revenue. Nothing to show for it, and actually worse than nothing. And of course, George was feeling this, not just financially, but personally. When you're working, sometimes 7 days a week, the stress is constant. And the frustrating part was that there was no shortage of work. The phone was ringing, the jobs were coming in, the team was busy, but the business was hemorrhaging money in a way that was not immediately visible. So when we looked at his accounts, one number stood out immediately. His gross profit margin was 14%. And if you're not sure what that means, let me just briefly explain it, because this is the number that basically everything else is built on. So your gross profit margin tells you how much money you keep from each pound of sales before you're paying overheads. Not your total profit, your gross profit, the money left over after all direct costs of delivering the work. So if you charge £1,000 for a job and the materials, labour, subcontractor costs to deliver the job come to 800, well then your gross profit is £200. That is 20% gross profit margin. Out of 200, you then have to pay everything else. You've got your rent, insurance, accountancy fees, phone bills, software, office costs, and whatever is left after all of that is then your net profit. So George, his gross profit margin was 14%. So for every pound of revenue coming through the door, he was keeping 14 pence before overheads. Now, in the construction sector, you would typically expect 20 to 30%. He was operating at roughly half the industry norm. And that gap is where the entire loss was coming from. He improved his gross profit margin by just 2 percentage points from 14 to 16%. The business would stop losing money. 2% on £1 million of turnover. That is £20,000 of additional gross profit. Enough to cover the £16,000 loss and start generating a return. Now, George did 2 things, and neither of them required new staff, new customers, new website, or any additional capital. They required discipline and willingness to have some quite uncomfortable conversations. Now, the first thing was pricing. We worked backwards from the margins the business needed to operate sustainably and calculated a minimum price point for every type of job. Now, George then went to his sales guys and said, we're not taking on any more work below this price, full stop, that's it. Now, as you would expect, there's pushback. There typically is no cyber situations. We might lose customers, work might slow up. And this is quite common, the conversation a lot of businesses will have. But in reality, if your pricing is so low that you're making a loss on the work, you don't have a business. And at some point, the money does run out. So the question is not, can we afford to raise prices? It's, or can you afford not to? And in George's case, they lost a couple of clients. And when they looked at it properly, it was a couple of their least profitable ones anyway. Most difficult accounts. So in reality, you can't be upset to actually see them go. Now, the second thing was job tracking. It's a big one. They built a simple spreadsheet, nothing elaborate. They tracked actual costs of every job that was being delivered. You got materials, labor, hours, you got travel, accommodation, and then unexpected expenses, all tracked against the budget that was set for the job and was priced. Now, the problems became visible almost immediately because materials being overbought because nobody checked what was already in stock, more expensive supplies being used because it might be more convenient or closer. You got then fuel purchased at motorway services instead of just local forecourts. You got accommodation costs kind of creeping up because the teams were choosing just different places to stay. No partnerships were arranged. Now, overruns on labour days that nobody was actively tracking or flagging until the job was actually finished. So you take all of these individually, none of these will look significant generally, but collectively across dozens of jobs over the course of a year, they were destroying the margin on every single project. And it's what's called margin creep. And it is a silent killer of many small businesses' profitability. Now, this is exactly the kind of work that our firm does with business owners. If you're looking at your numbers and something doesn't feel right, or honestly, if you've not looked at your numbers properly for a while, might be worth booking a call. You can find us at youraccountant.co.uk. The link, of course, is in the description. So let's talk about margin creep, because I want to stay on this concept for a moment because it is common and it is dangerous precisely because it isn't visible until it's too late. Now, margin creep is what happens when costs gradually increase or efficiency gradually decreases over a period of time, usually without any single decision being obviously wrong. It's not one big mistake, it's dozens of smaller mistakes, almost invisible ones, compounding over months, over years, and it tends to accelerate as the business grows. So when you're small, you notice everything, right? You know what every job costs because you're doing most of the work yourself. You negotiate harder on the materials because every pound matters, specifically to you as well. You are lean because you kind of have to be. And as you grow, you add people, you add processes, you add complexity. And with that complexity, small inefficiencies will always creep in. A slightly more expensive supplier here, an extra day on the job there, a team member making purchasing decisions based on convenience rather than cost. You get other things like software subscription that nobody uses, a role that made sense when it was created but maybe no longer does. Now, none of these show up as a crisis, they show up as a slow, steady erosion of your gross profit margin. And by the time you notice it, usually because a tax bill arrives that you can't pay or the bank balance doesn't match your expectation, the damage has been accumulating for many months, even potentially longer than a year. Now, the businesses that avoid this are not the ones with the best products or the most customers or clients. They're the ones that track their margins consistently and review them and scrutinize them regularly. Okay, so let me walk you through how to do this in your own business because it's not complicated, but you do need to get the numbers right. So let's start with step one. Find your gross profit figure. If you have an accounting software, go to your P&L, your profit and loss report for the last 12-month period. At the top, you'll see sales figure. Below that, you'll see your direct costs, typically your cost of sales. The difference between those two numbers is your gross profit margin. If you do not have accounting software, you'll need to add up your total sales for a period and then add up every cost that is directly involved in delivering that product or service. And then again, the difference is your gross profit. Now, step two is calculate the margin. Take your gross profit figure, divide it by your sales figure and multiply by 100. That gives you your gross profit margin as a percentage. Now, step three is benchmark it. You need to know whether your number is reasonable for your industry. You can ask your accountant, they will likely have kind of sector data. You can look at competitors who filed account on Companies House if you're a limited company, and you can even use AI tools as a rough guide for typical margins within your business sectors. The point is not to find the exact target. The point is to find whether you're in the right range or whether you're significantly below where you probably should be. And if you are significantly below, this is your opportunity. Now, step four is set up a small improvement target. Do not try and go from 14% to 30% in a bloody quarter. Set a target of improving by 1 or 2 percentage points over the next 3 months, let's say. On a £500,000 turnover, a 1% improvement in gross profit margin is £5,000 of additional profit. on 1 million is 10,000. And they're not trivial numbers. Now, there are 3 levers to pull to improve your gross profit margin, and the real power comes from pulling more than one at the same time, even by just small amounts. Now, lever 1 is the obvious one, it's pricing. This is the most impactful, the most uncomfortable. Most kind of small business owners do overprice, and they do it for years. They set a price when they started, they maybe adjusted it once or twice, and then they left it. Meanwhile, their costs have gone up, materials have gone up, the national minimum wage has risen to £12.71 an hour, employer national insurance is now 15% above £5,000 threshold, pension contributions are running at 3% minimum, the cost of employing people in this country has risen materially in the last 2 years, and if your prices have not moved in line with that, well, your margin is being compressed from both sides. Now, you do not necessarily need to raise prices across the board. Start with new work, price new jobs at the margin that you need. For existing clients or customers, consider phased increases or increase linked to contract renewals. But the conversation has to happen basically because absorbing costs is not a strategy. It's just a slow and painful death. Now, lever 2, direct costs. Go through your cost of sales line by line and ask yourself, is there a cheaper way to get the same result? Can we consolidate suppliers? Are we getting volume discounts? Are purchasing decisions being made by the right people? Are we tracking job costs against budgets? Or are we only finding out what a job costs after it's finished? Now, George's spreadsheet was effective not because it was sophisticated, but because it made the invisible visible. When his guys could see the running profit on a job in real time, their behavior changed. They started checking stock before ordering, they started using the right supplies, they started managing their time on jobs differently. And that's visibly then changed behavior. And lever 3 is all around efficiency. And this is the hardest to implement, but often the most sustainable. Can you deliver the same output, but with fewer resources? Can you eliminate steps in your process that add no value? Can you use technology to automate something that currently takes manual effort? Can you trim a service element that clients are not actually getting value out of or using? The multiplier effect is where this becomes powerful. A 2% price increase, a 2% reduction in direct costs, a 1% efficiency gain, individually or modest, but can compound into a significant shift in your bottom line. George's business went from 14% gross profit margin to 31%. That single change turned a £16,000 loss into a £155,000 profit. Same business, same team, same type of work, different decisions, different controls, different outcome. So if you're a business owner and you have not looked at your gross profit margin recently, or maybe ever, this is the right time to start. Not marketing, not hiring, not a new website, this number. Because if this number is wrong, nothing else you do will fix the problem. You will just be pouring more revenue into a business that cannot convert into profit. The average net profit margin for a UK SME is currently sitting around 8 to 9%. If yours is significantly below that, you now know where to look and what you need to do about it. If you want help getting these numbers right, understanding what they mean and building a plan to improve them, consider us. youraccountant.co.uk, link is in the description. And if this video was useful, subscribe. We cover tax, business strategy, and the numbers that actually matter every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.